I'm here as the Greens member for Denison, but also the Minister for Community Development, and I have the great privilege in Cabinet of representing LGBTI Tasmanians. But primarily I'm here because I believe in love, as I reckon everyone in this room does, and doesn't matter what colour you are, doesn't matter what shape, size, gender or sexuality you are, love is love is love. So we have a fantastic panel here this evening, an extraordinary eclectic group of people.
My personal view on this has always been the same, and that it is just simply unfair that one of the fundamental civil institutions of our society, that is the institution of marriage, that some people should be barred from access to that institution because of their sexuality. So for me, the issues around love and compassion and respect are the values on which I form that view. And when you look at our legal frameworks, there is a clear problem in the law in this country. While we still have legally entrenched discrimination, which is what we've got, it's going to be very hard to stamp out the discrimination in our schools, in our streets, in our pubs, in our homes and in the public debate. And that is the core issue here. If we're serious about ending discrimination, and it's about people who are discriminated against in their day-to-day lives, and I'm sure there's some in this room who have been the subject of that, it's very hard to end that discrimination while you still have a discriminatory legal framework and legislative framework that governs the way that our laws work in this country. So really for us, if we can remove one of, if not the last bastions of legally entrenched discrimination, that is the barring of same-sex couples from accessing one of the most fundamental civil institutions of our society, the institution of marriage. If we can do that, I think it'll be a giant step forward and a real sign of parliamentary leadership to drive the message home that discrimination on a day-to-day level is simply unacceptable.
I was blessed with 4 beautiful kids. I'm also blessed with 4 beautiful grandkids. And as a parent, there's no book that you get when you're a parent to say that this is what you do, this is how you rear your kids. So you do it the way that you think it's right. And you know, and yes, I have a gay daughter. She's 25 years of age. And the whole conversation come up, how I've come out and let people know that I have a gay daughter, is that my wife got very sick, and she nearly died, and it's the support of your family and friends that get you through all this stuff. And you know, it makes no matter how many world titles you've got, or how flash a car or a nice home that you've got. At the end of the day, that's all material stuff. What I've worked out in life, that it's that family and friends and that support that you've got actually get you through, and they are there all the time. And I actually said that in a paper sort of interview, and I said that for family and support, and I have a daughter Sally and her partner Lily, and the reporter said Lily has in female. I said, yeah. Just took it just natural, and they said, how do you feel about that? And I said, well, you know, I love her, she's gorgeous, and these two are in love. And at the end of the day, I don't need to understand the people out there that you know, that don't understand. I think once you're in that situation, that Sally is that same beautiful person that I nursed and I hugged and I kissed, and when she fell over I picked her up, and you guide your kids in life to be really good people. We had a family meeting and she said, Dad, I don't want to make you ashamed of me, I don't want to embarrass you, but Dad, I'm gay. And I said, well, so what? I still love you. And I think that moment actually brought us closer, because I think in our society today, I think it's really sad that parents kick their kids out. I think it's really sad that kids commit suicide because their parents can't accept the way that they are. And I think it's time that we change. And the whole saying is, 2 people, if you're in love, and that's what it's all about. I know that I fell in love with my wife, 35 years ago. And then when she was on that table and she was on touch and go to die, she was dying, I realised that love is so powerful. So to all you gay people, keep following your dreams, because that's what life's all about, is having dreams. Because I always reckon when I cut for Australia, I was captain of this beautiful country for 21 years, that this is the country of dreams and opportunities. And by me coming out, hopefully I will help that cause, that one day that I will walk down the aisle. I've done it once with my oldest daughter, and she's with a bloke. But hopefully I'll be able to get the opportunity to walk down the aisle with my daughter, with her partner Lily. And hopefully that helps all that stuff in life. Thank you.
Now, I'm a member of Amnesty International, and at Amnesty I get to hear all the oppression that goes on in the world, also the oppression of gay, lesbian, bisexual and transgender people. Just to give some examples, Uganda, there was recently an attempt there to introduce the death penalty for homosexuality. In Saudi Arabia, gay men and women, if they get found out, get executed. In Iran, there's death by stoning. In Fiji, 14 years in prison, and Pakistan, life and 100 lashes. I could go on. This is the world my son inhabits. And I invite every heterosexual person in this room to put him or herself in my son's shoes. Openly flirting, no. Holding hands in public, no. Chance of getting bashed, yes. Marriage, no. And gross persecution in quite a few overseas countries. And I think this is not freedom. And that is the most important reason why I want same-sex marriage, because more than anything else, the right to marriage for gays says you are free to be who you are. And it also says you are okay, you are equal, and you have worth. You have as much worth as heterosexuals.
I often speak at forums like this and I say same-sex partners want to be treated equally. Same-sex partners want equal entitlements and equal recognition for themselves and for their families. And all those things are true. We do. But then a couple of weeks ago, I read a letter in the Mercury from a young gay man in Howrah on the Eastern Shore. Jason Tegg, I think his name was. 21, he said in the letter. And this is what he wrote. It's hard to explain to people who aren't gay what it feels like knowing the law stops me from marrying. It's not what I can't have that makes me feel excluded. It's what I can't give. Now, I thought a lot about that, and I realised that Jason was absolutely right. The most important argument for allowing same-sex couples to marry is that marriage is about giving yourself to someone else, making the most profound commitment you can, a commitment for life. And of course there are many same-sex partners, including myself and my partner, who do that every day. But the point is that there is a law which recognises that profound commitment and calls it marriage. And as long as that law says that we cannot have that profound love and commitment recognised in the same way as other people, it impugns our capacity to love and to commit, to give to each other all that we can. As David and Nels has reminded us, it also means that we can't participate to the same extent in our extended families. When you marry, you don't just form a new legal union with the person you marry. They become part of your family and you become part of theirs. We have terms to describe that: brother-in-law, mother-in-law. Marriage creates kinship. But again, to be told that you cannot marry excludes you from those profound bonds your partner's family. They may still see you on a daily basis as effectively as a son-in-law, in my case. But the law precludes that official recognition. It precludes you giving to that family and they giving to you.
I really struggle with the notion that up until 8 years, 3 months and 27 days ago, I was considered okay to marry a woman. And although I'm the same person, I can still love a woman as much as I loved that woman then, but the law says there is something really weird about the idea of you two marrying. And I just cannot see the sense in that. To me, love is about the individual you love and not about their gender or their appendages or what their personal journey in life has been. So that's one big issue for me. The other issue is one which will probably throw a bit of a spoke in the wheels here tonight, because everybody here tonight has talked about gay relationships, talked about same-sex relationships, and there's a little problem Robbie and I occasionally have with media releases and things that, to me, this issue is more about marriage equality, because there are quite a few people in this world. Figures say somewhere between 1 in 100 and 1 in 400, but certainly I would think, and I know there is at least one intersex person in this room tonight, and intersex people aren't really covered by the notion of same-sex marriage. I think the amendment that Senator Hanson-Young actually put up spoke not of same-sex marriage, but of two consenting adults regardless of their gender. And I think that's what we need to be looking at when and pushing on politicians, is the fact that there are people who, through birth, are not able to say that they are male or female, or clearly identify that. And therefore they are, to some extent, totally banned from marriage. And I think we need to be looking at their situation as much as we're looking at the situation of same-sex couples.
There is no reason to think that the Commonwealth, that the High Court may not take a similarly liberal view of the marriage power. That is, that it would say that the institution of marriage has changed since 1901, when it was a definitively heterosexual union. It has changed, and one only has to have regard to like jurisdictions such as the United States, Canada, where of course the Supreme Court of Canada ruled that it was constitutionally valid back in about 2004, and it was then legislated for by the Chrétien government. In Europe, there is now an increasing move under the European Charter on Human Rights to ensure that, or to move towards same-sex marriage. So in other words, if the High Court is to be intellectually consistent, it ought to read the marriage power in the same liberal way that it has read the corporations power, the external affairs power, and a range of other Commonwealth powers. The issue is whether or not a state could legislate and not have its legislation overridden. And in a sense, you'd really hope that Nick's bill and the Greens bill got up, because it would then, it would no doubt be challenged, and it would then force the High Court to have a look at this issue. The High Court, I would have said 5 or 6 years ago, may have been very conservative, as it was under Murray Gleeson as Chief Justice, but it has now become, as we've seen in recent times, more liberal, and I mean that with a small L, under Robert French, and that there is a greater likelihood that the High Court may take the expanded view of marriage and the marriage power and what it entails, than take a narrow view which it might have done 5 or 6 years ago. So from that perspective, state legislation is desirable. It's risky, because if it does get knocked off, it sets back the cause some years, although it then, I think, then becomes incumbent upon the Commonwealth to have the states refer all of their powers in relation to marriage to the Commonwealth formally, so that the Commonwealth can legislate in relation to same-sex marriage. But one would have thought that in 2011, in a modern national economy and society that of only 20 million people, that we ought to ignore state boundaries and that we ought to have national legislation. There is no difference between a same-sex couple living in Perth, my sister and her partner live in Perth. They should have the same rights as Rodney and his partner here, or anyone in this room who wishes to avail themselves of a fundamental civil institution, as Nick put it. So I think you ought to be cautiously optimistic about the course of this matter. I think this issue is a bit like the issue of the Republic, in the sense that all of us here are on the right side of history. It is something that will happen. It is, as always in this country, taking more than a long time, but it is inevitable and it's desirable. Thank you.